All right, welcome, Mushin Warriors, to another episode of Mushin Mental Academy. Our purpose is to provide tools for engagement and presence. Today's episode, I want to share my experience with sound healing, and I'll see if I can keep it relatively brief. I won't share the whole story with it. Maybe we'll do that at a different time, but yeah, let's jump right in. So, as you can see, I picked up some injuries this week. Go down to here on my forearm, or the back. There's some lacerations and cuts. And in receiving this, I went through a bit of pain, a lot more than I've experienced recently, at least. And it took me somewhere mentally, right? So I want to share that experience because mm, it gave me like a lot of clarity in that. So do with this what you will. Again, this is just my experience. I'm not going to claim to understand this or anything, but I'm in that process and I know what it means for me. So let's go. When I received these injuries, it seemed that all of a sudden all of my senses got heightened, right? And it seemed like brightness just went up on everything. All of the colors got brighter and it was easier to see. And I was able to just like very effectively move around and do anything that I needed to do. I didn't feel really much of the pain. It just felt more, it was more my own battle with like centeredness and balance. So it felt as if I had two options. There were like two buttons that were always available. And one of the buttons said panic, and the other button says breathe. And those were almost always present for me, those two options. At times, certain buttons got a lot larger and they would fill up the screen, but they were always present, the two buttons. And so there was a moment, the very first one was when I was outside and I was just holding my arm against the wall, like kind of waiting for a little bit of help. And as I sat there, I realized I could go into this complete panic mode of what was going on, or I could tap into this breathing. And so I decided to go for the latter, and I just breathe. And by engaging with my breath, I was able to focus enough to just exist and just be there and just sit with the pain. And then at that point, my dad came over actually. We're staying at an Airbnb. My dad came over, took care of me, brought me over to the bathroom to get it washed up and get me cleaned up. Right. So cool. Um, this process itself was fairly challenging for me. Everything was okay, but I was like starting to shake. My body itself was kind of doing this and just trying to like be there, and I was just breathing and just being there, but it was this super heightened state. And that's when my friend came over and he was over there and just hung out with me in the bathroom while I left the heat of the shower on just to make me feel warm. I just laid on the edge of the bathtub, so I wasn't inside, just to allow my, this to do what it needed to do over there. And and as I waited for my dad to come back with the stuff to clean it and to wrap, I my objective became to just exist, to just be, because that became very difficult. I wanted to just essentially leave. I felt as my body would like tense up in other parts to attempt to distract me from this pain. It was almost attempting to disengage me because I was so stuck on this particular trauma that it wasn't allowing me to just let it be. So in noticing this, I realized I was very close to the panic button, and the panic button kept getting bigger as I would do that. So as I would just keep shaking, it was like, oh man, I don't know how much longer I can keep doing this. I don't know how much longer I can hold this. I'm going to shift from this leg to this arm, or you know what I mean? Anything to get the pain away from here. And that's when my body gave me another option. It said, don't panic, right? Breathe. So I said, okay, well, I'm going to press this button. I'm going to see what that does. I'm just going to continue riding this button the whole time. And so through the process of breathing, I started communicating with my body. I was listening to it, right? Because I had no choice. It was yelling, and I was like, okay, I'm going to listen to what you have to say. And through listening, it gave me clarity on next steps. So I told it, look, body, do whatever you need to do, right? Like, I understand we're going through whatever this is. We're not going to run away. We're not going to go into this weird, like, state of shock. We're just going to ride this out. We're going to see what this is. What do you need to do? Do it. And at that moment, I started making sound. I started humming, and I would just hum whatever I wanted. I would just, mm, 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 mm. And so as I would do that, I felt my body relaxing. I felt the vibrations going through all of me, my entirety. And just like it did then, it's doing now. It went to the spots that needed most, and it allowed me to just relax. It allowed me to just be. And then if I maintained focus and attention in this state, I could maintain this balance. I could allow it to exist. And it felt like rather than disengaging from my injury, I was engaging with the healing process of the injury and with the feelings and making sure that I don't lock up and that I don't get, loss or atrophy. It would, it felt completely different. And by the time my dad had returned with like bandages and stuff to clean it with, I was just sitting there with my hand over the bathtub, just singing. So like whatever songs would come to my mind that I felt like singing, I would just start singing or humming. And I felt no pain. None. I felt throbbing, right? It felt like it was pulsating there. It felt like there was energy and movement, and I could feel that part, which I'm not gonna say was like comfortable, but I was okay with it. It was fine. It was it was like appreciated. It felt wanted. It felt right is how it felt. So I can't tell you that I fully know exactly what process is going on, what I'm doing, what I wasn't doing. I'm not gonna claim to know any of this, but I am going to do what I'm doing now, and that's share this experience with you because I mean it literally brought me from a place where like I didn't want to be there. You know what I mean? Like was like, dude, what am I gonna do with my mind right now? Like this is terrible. It brought me from that place to a place where I was just sitting there singing, like, okay, cool. And then actually at that point, like I continued singing and they were able to get everything bandaged, put the Neosporin on a touch, all of that, and it was fine. Like it was okay. Like I noticed it was there, I felt it, but it wasn't painful, it wasn't terrible. I didn't want to run away. So that's what I have to share with you this week. I'll definitely continue unpacking that a bit. And actually, one thing that I find very fascinating with it that came to me afterwards was that it seems like if we experience tremendous pain or something that occurs, we have a tendency to, an immediate instinct to yell and do this primal cry. It feels like it's just coming from our gut, right from our core. And I find that fascinating. And through this experience, the way that I relate to it is it seems like that's our body's instinct to harmonize and vibrate this survival frequency throughout our body. And so it's literally vibrating our cells and sending the right signals to allow us to engage with whatever it is. So in the primal cry situation, it's more for our root and our survival. In my case of when I was describing the hums, it was going through, like, assuming whatever pattern it my body felt like it needed to heal. So yeah, that's what I have for you. As always, I appreciate you. Be awesome, be beautiful, and be yourselves.